Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are, and welcome to NerdTube. We're talking Strange New World, Season 1, Episode 2, Children of the Comet. I am here with a motley crew of Star Trek enthusiasts, first of all. To my left and your right, we have Cousin Cheeto. How you doing?
Here to explore strange new worlds.
Damn right. And beneath Cousin Cheeto, we have Captain Mason. How you doing, mate?
Doing great.
Fantastic. And finally, by no means least, we also have in full um I'm losing my vocabulary here, but looking fantastic in his uniform right there. Major Rage, how you doing, mate?
Doing great. Proud to be here as always.
Thank you very much. So I'm very happy to say that this particular episode was also just what you want from Star Trek nowadays. A very good episodic episode where they had to deal with one problem which dealt into multiple problems, and it all got wrapped up by the end. Obviously, the arc of Captain Pike and his eventual crippling and ending up in the chair was still present in this episode to a degree, but nevertheless, we still got one and done episode formula with all types of things and what we learned during this episode. It was absolutely fantastic. Before I break it down, I'm going to ask you individually how you felt about the episode. Start with you, Cousin Cheeto.
Well, I wasn't here last week because I was seeing Doctor Strange, but I just want to say so far, Strange New Worlds is fantastic. I am loving. I I'm not a huge fan of the episodic format, but I have always said that it is a format that Trek has been very slow to get back to, and I really feel like that this is something that it really needs to get into. I also really like this episode because they focused I would not consider. I know Uhura's a legacy character, but I wouldn't consider her one of the main characters at this point. I would consider her, or I would consider like not Archer. Now I'm losing my train of thought. Pike, number one, Spock. Like I would consider them like main characters, but this episode was mostly focused on Uhura. And so I really like the fact that we are already seeing character development from some of these other characters. I can't wait to see where they go with. I mean, we have the Soon character, the security guard, the navigator, which her name escapes me at the moment. You know how this goes; it takes us a couple weeks.
Ortega?
Huh?
Ortega?
Yeah, Ortega.
Ortegas?
You're right. Yes, Ortega.
Ortega as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really loving the direction that this show is going so far, and I'm very excited. As I said, I'm not a huge fan of episodic, but it's a format that Star Trek has been away from for far too long. And I know we got a little bit of episodic format in Lower Decks, but
Yeah.
it's nice to have like an hour-long live Star Trek episodic thing running. So I'm very happy. I could go on for a while, but I'm not going to. I'll turn it over to who. Let's go down.
I'm going to go to Captain Mason next.
Yep.
First of all, before you tell me how you felt about this episode, Bandit here, because he's a very observant man, from Denmark, I may add. My own personal stalker. He's asking you, Mason, what is on your wall?
Ribbons.
Ribbon. There you go, Bandit. All right,
Listen,
Ribbon.
his ribbon game is on point.
Mm-hmm. Bandit loves
Not
me, by
mine,
the way.
but
He's
my lady sister-in-law's.
he's absolutely obsessed with me, and I appreciate that. I really do. He's my little buddy. All right, so Mason, what would you like to express regarding this particular episode?
I also really like that we've gotten back to that this show is the episodic format and not serialized. Plus, it's both serialized. Pardon me. It's both serialized and episodic at the same time because as Cheeto mentioned, we have the the recurring running theme of Pike seeing his future, but other than that, each episode so far is its own self-contained story that you don't have to have seen the previous episode to to be able to get it. Kind of like Burn Notice. If you remember the show Burn Notice, yeah.
Well, I just remember previous seasons of Star Trek, which was also episodic, like TNG, like the original series, like Voyager as well. So that's what I very much appreciate. I mean, the serialization really started to come in with DS9, in my opinion. But that was original in its own way, and it worked. It worked for that show at the time. So, um, Mage, apparently you look like a pizza delivery guy. But it says it might be your jacket. So Bandit says, don't worry about him. He does like to take the piss. But Mage, what would you like to say regarding this episode?
Overall, I thought it was a good episode. The gentlemen have said a lot of things that I agree with. It's nice to see episodic again. There is the element of serialization with the overarching that kind of plot with Captain Pike having to come to grips with his own death being foretold, and just it's a nice return to form. Just great, looks awesome. It's well written. It's clever. It's classic Trek, but with a slick new veneer.
I love the color palette of this show.
Mm-hmm.
It's so vibrant and colorful. It's hard to believe that this is alongside Discovery at one point, which was very. It looked very nice as well. No, it looked very nice, but yeah, it was a bit bland when it came to the colors. This show, like, oh my god, the vibrancy of it is just beautiful. I can't get enough of it. Daniel Vance says, I hope Mason would be here when Spock is walking down the hallway talking to Uhura. I swear the woman that passes them look like Archer. I giggled at my head cannon. Fair enough.
Well, I'll have to watch.
And you've been asked once if you like Einstein. I'm not sure if that's Albert Einstein or Doc Brown's dog, but nevertheless, if you like him or not. So we're going to start talking about this episode. We're going to break it down now, bit by bit. So in the beginning of this episode, we see a primitive planet, and they're looking up at a comet, and then we hear Uhura's log, and she's about to have dinner at Pike's place. Uhura gets a little bit of a hazing with her uniform from Ortega. This is a very American thing regarding hazing. It's borderline bullying, as far as I'm concerned. But fair enough, it wasn't too bad this time around. And we meet a blind Andorian chief engineer. I forgot his name. I do apologize. Do you guys have his name?
No, but I can get it.
No problemo. And I'm already liking him, by the way. He's very no nonsense. And in fact, he kind of reminds me of like blind guys you see in martial art movies. Yes, I'm blind, but my other senses are far superior. And that's what it is with him as well. And I think he's also got a bit of a telepathy thing going on as well. And he's not just sorry, go on.
I just wanted to add to that. He's actually a subspecies. Well, maybe not a subspecies, but of the Andorians because they address those guys in Enterprise. So
I remember.
So I'm glad they're kind of bringing this honestly, because you never see white like albino Andorians, white Andorians. What do they call them? I don't even remember what
they're Anar.
Anar, yes, very good, man. Mage on that.
Very good, very good.
But I'm really glad that we're getting to see a little bit more of this. That really excited me when we were getting the cast list and those cast trailers and stuff like that for these guys. So anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
No problem. And so yeah, so regarding that particular Andorian, the anal one, he's the chief engineer, and he has senses that are far superior by not having sight. We find out that Uhura speaks 37 languages. Which is amazing. Like, what the? Like, my jaw hit the floor. Like, I get amazed when I find that people can speak 7 or 9 languages. Yeah, this person can speak 37. Now, some of them are different versions of African dialect, but still, it's still impressive. She probably can speak pretty much every European language, I guess.
Well, but also, 37. I think she said that 22 of those languages were actually local to her.
Yeah, so exactly.
It's still impressive. Don't get me wrong, but when you say 37, like you said, when you say 37 languages, I'm thinking like 37 different countries worth of languages. 22 of those
many
are
countries.
Many
countries speak the same language, and if you want to chop that down, we still got 15 languages she does speak, which might not necessarily be African
as I
dialect.
said, it's still impressive. I'm just saying, like, I was kind of like, oh, well, it's 22 of those are more like local dialect rather than anything else.
I mean, you could easily throw in French and Spanish in there, and
Oh
probably
yeah.
German in there, maybe the odd Scandinavian language,
Hmm.
definitely some Slovak language
Maybe
from
she probably knows some
Eastern
Klingon.
Europe. I wouldn't be surprised, you know. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I know. I know you're
anyway.
thinking of Star Trek 6, Mason. I know you are.
Yeah.
So Ahura tells everyone she joined Starfleet because her preferred career choice reminded her of her dead parents and brother, and which is kind of a bit sad thing. So she kind of avoided what she wanted to do in life because of the memory of her family. So she ended up joining Starfleet instead. Now Spock later tells her that she admires her for her honesty, but if you don't want to join Starfleet, then maybe you should fuck off and make way for somebody who does want to join Starfleet. And we also then later on get Pike telling Una about the future and the people, the people he'll eventually save. So that was all in the opening scene of this particular episode. So it was a nice fun moment seeing Pike having dinner, having some friends around and stuff. His hair was so Johnny Bravo today. It made me laugh my arse off. I couldn't get over his hairstyle. I love it, but it was absolutely hilarious. But I'm liking Pike. He's got elements of Kirk about him, but he's also a little bit different too. So what did you think of this opening scene? I'll start off with you this time round, Mage.
I liked this opening scene. I mean, the captain's quarters, very swanky. He's got like a whole kitchen in there.
Yeah,
That's swanky. Um, I love the Anar chief engineer. I think he's a great character. He reminiscent of Shran, kind of that standoffish and slightly arrogant Andorian stereotype. Uh, I like Andorians. I like seeing him here. I I like him so far. I was hoping we might not get an overall season kind of arc for Pike dealing with the being foretold about his fate, but I can see how there's room to work it for the long haul over the whole season there.
I just hope they don't I just hope it's not like a big like they get it resolved by the end of this season. Like I want it to eventually just kind of like him coming to terms with everything, but like I don't want him some kind of timey wimey thing like preventing it from happening. And I know it's like 10 years from now or 9 years from now or whatever, but I think it's going to be something that's going to be in the back of his head for a long time. So
yeah. Knowing your future, I mean, I don't think anybody can predict it, but knowing that when you're going to die, or sorry, so he's not. I think people mistake me. He's not going to die, but he's going to pretty much have a fate worse than death, in my opinion. And knowing that it must haunt him beyond belief. Mason, what did you think of the opening scene with the
I
dinner
don't I
party?
was Mage
Oh,
done. I'm
sorry.
sorry. I kind of
I'm sorry,
interrupted.
Mage.
No,
I
I
apologize.
just had one more thing to say. I like that they're doing an Uhura episode. I'm glad we're going to see, hopefully, development of all of the characters and not just focus on one main character the whole time. I won't name a show.
Yeah.
But the stakes are a little low because we know that eventually she is going to serve on the 1701. But, seeing the process of how she gets there can be fun, and I'm glad that we're getting character development of multiple characters.
Okay. Before I pass it on to you, Mason, just want to read a couple of comments here from Daniel Vance. Uhura's earrings in her dress uniform resemble the fans from the dance in the Final Frontier. Well, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, she is a good singer, by the way, which is what comes into play later on in this episode. But I'm very happy they played on that to a degree. They're setting up the children. Pike says really hard, as if they had a plan for them down a road other than disco. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is a bit heavy-handed so early on in the season, but it wasn't too much this time around. Just a little sprinkle of it in this particular episode. But we'll see how things pan out. Mason, what did you think of the dinner party scene and the hazing of Uhura and her speaking 37 languages, as well as maybe being introduced to the Andorian and anything else you can think of?
that the hazing was kind of funny. You know, she shows up in her dress uniform and she's like, what's oh, okay, well, I'm gonna go change. Nope, you don't want to be late. You know, so she's kind of trapped now. You know, or take us, you know, strategize that properly. You know, to have her show up in her uniform and that, but now you don't have time to change. You're stuck with it. You know, and that was, you know, in good fun. It was, you know, it wasn't like you said, like a bullying type of hazing. And then, which, you know, when Pike opens the door, or, you know, the door opens and Uhura walks in, he's like, dress uniform, you know. And I like seeing the, you know, all the crew together, like cooking and preparing and doing all this stuff, like, you know, like a barbecue with your friends.
Yeah.
Or, you know, I don't know if we've ever seen anything like that before in Star Trek. And I mean, I'm okay with the character development, but you know, when we got some more, you know, Uhura backstory and you know, development there, it just felt a little like throughout the episode, it's just the Uhura character development seemed a little forced or a bit heavy at times. Like, you know, she's trying to decipher this, you know, device and figure out the language or how to communicate it with it or whatever, or they're gonna die. And she and Spock are having a 5-minute conversation about, you know, he's you know, giving her the pep talk, the, you know, the Vulcan Spock version of, you can do it, I believe in you, and do we really have time for this shit right now? You know, our lives are in danger, and you know, so you know, I like character development. I just felt it was a little bit heavy in this one.
Before I pass it on to you, I just found generally a lot of the sort of quirky sort of way they would like almost break the seriousness with a little one-liner here or there between certain things. I found a bit weird. Like, you know, we're going to talk about this Comet. Hey, Samuel, I like your mustache. It's like, what the fuck? Where did that come from? You know what I mean? But jumping ahead a little bit regarding that, Cheeto, what have you got to say regarding the opening scene?
I really agree with Mason about the Pike thing, you know, where the hazing and then she shows up in the dress uniform, and I really feel like Pike, Anson Mount is Pike is like Star Trek's version of Robert Downey Jr. I really like as Iron Man. I really feel like he fits that character so well that he's almost redefining the character. Because we don't have a lot of Pike, obviously. We have some from TOS and from the Kelvin timeline. I'm not saying anything against those performances, but it's just like Anson Mount does such, and this is what I wanted. Like I saw Star Trek Discovery season 2, and I was like, I want Anson Mount's Pike in a show. Like, I want this. So I really liked it. I you know, just the way he, like, when he opened the door and he's like, dress uniform. You know, like, just the way he did that. It's just like, it was so natural, and just like he's just along for the ride, and he's fun. Just the Andorian, what was it? Anar?
Anal.
No, not anal. There.
Okay.
The Anar's name is Hemmer, like Hummer, but with an E. And actually, fun fact: the actual actor in real life is visually impaired. So they hired a blind person, like a blind actor, to play this Anar. So
that's cool.
I do. I like it. So we're gonna get more of it. And as I said, it goes back to, like, you know, Charlie Cox does a great job with Daredevil, but still Charlie Cox is not actually blind, you know? So it's like, it's good to see that, like, you get, you know, actual, even people with like these kind of impairments getting decent work, you know, just, you know, because they can still be good actors and be blind, you know? Like, I mean,
like the actors we've seen in Marvel, like, what's her face, from Hawkeye, and the girl from Eternals. They're both deaf, and they're playing deaf characters.
That DC did the same thing. I mean, in Titans this past season, they hired a unilateral amputee as Barbara Gordon. So rather than her being just paralyzed, she actually was missing a leg, but the actress is also missing a leg from a motorcycle accident or car accident, one of the two. So it's just good. It's good to see these things because, 10, 20 years ago, you would have never seen that. They would have hired somebody that could, that was perfectly fine, and they would try to act their ass off to be blind or something like that. As I said, not taking anything away from Charlie Cox or anybody like that who has performed as a blind person, or even like Tom Hanks who performed as Forrest Gump. They do a great job, but it's good to see people that actually have these disabilities can portray them in a format that shows it's not necessary. Because he even said in the episode, he said what I think he called it an impairment. He's like, I don't consider it an impairment. Like he basically said flat out, he's like, this isn't an impairment. It makes my other senses superior to yours. So that was something that really stuck out to me. The dinner scene was a lot of fun. It's just it's kind of like this show's version of the poker game from TNG. And it really felt that way. Like I wouldn't be surprised if we see a couple of these scenes throughout the season, and I'm on board for it. And I love the actress who is playing Uhura. I think she's doing, even in these first even in the first 2 episodes, I think she's doing fantastic. So
I guarantee you she'll have a massive afro in 2 or 3 seasons from now. I can see the afro like being added in there as like a part of her character development, and think, oh look, now she's becoming more like the Uhura we recognize. So keep an eye out for that. And remember, I called it.
Yeah, but I wouldn't hate it, but I wouldn't care. Like if
I want it so badly, you have no idea. All right. Okay. So before the credits, we see a simulation of a comet destroying a primitive planet, which we saw earlier at the beginning of this episode, and we find out that this is just a simulation. Initially, we thought that was genuinely happening. But without a second thought, Pike then orders the destruction of this comet. But the comet has shields. Starfleet members discuss what to do regarding this comet, and the away mission to the comet surface is what is suggested. That's when we get Samuel Kirk involved as well. It's Uhura's first away mission, so you can see she's shitting herself before she gets transported, and she's wearing a spacesuit and all of that. The crew finds a chamber with a breathable atmosphere. How convenient. And a giant oval construct. And Sam Kirk asks Uhura her thoughts because she's the linguistic expert, and it's very much like that. Everyone kind of relying on her and her understanding of languages to decipher some sort of code, so to speak, in this episode. Anyway, Uhura is feeling a little bit overwhelmed and has no idea, but composes herself and makes some assumptions on the construct. Sam Kirk, being the sort of Sam Rockwell guy from fucking Galaxy Quest. I'm just getting that vibe from him, honestly. I
think it's the same actor, isn't it?
No, it's not.
No?
Sam Rockwell
Okay.
is the name of the actor.
I've seen so many memes comparing the two. I'm like, I thought he would be older, but then I'm like, well, but I didn't know. I didn't research it.
It's just that when he walked in on the bridge at the end of the first episode, it looked like Sam Rockwell's character walking in on the bridge of Galaxy Quest once he got the job as the chief engineer or the security guard.
Was that Sam Rockwell in Galaxy Quest?
Yeah.
I did not realize that.
What the hell?
I did not realize that. I haven't seen Galaxy Quest in years. I love it, but anyway.
Yeah, he always thought he was going to die because his character never had a name, and his character was always dying on the TV shows. So, anyway, Sam Kirk decides to touch the construct and gets an electrical shock, and the shields of the comet. And initially, they were able to go on the comet because the comet itself was only engaging its shield when it was defending itself, because they went onto the comet when it wasn't defending itself. There was no shields, but now the shields are being re-engaged, trapping our away team, and they're unable to be beamed away. So Pike asks his crew for ideas. Ortega suggests harmonics to break the shield, and Pike likes the idea. I like the way that Pike always asks his crews for ideas. He gets most of his ideas from his crew. Uhura, at the same time, back on the comet, Uhura is busting Spock's balls regarding Nurse Chapel flirting with him. Uhura tells Spock she's messing with him to reduce the tension, and Spock responds, and I love this bit going, that to reduce tension, he uses rigorous logic. I just laugh so much. I'll tell you what, Spock is hilarious. He's hilarious in his deadpan way. It is so funny, like this Spock. He makes me laugh so much. I love it. I love it. I want him to remain deadpan and naive when it comes to certain human characteristics, so to speak. He's got a bit of a Data vibe about him. We meet anyway, we meet the Shepherds, aka the Guardians of the Comet, and they tell Enterprise not to fuck with the Comet or it will fuck with you. The Comet is called Mohammed, and this advanced alien species has been monitoring its trajectory for countless lifetimes, and whatever happens to the comet is its purpose. Even if the comet destroys a planet and gets destroyed itself in the process. Pike responds diplomatically, but the Shepherds are not having any of it, and with an injured crew member on the comet and the away team being trapped, and obviously the comet destroying a planet as well, Pike has his work cut out. So with them doing the away mission, Samuel Kirk touching the fucking device, the introductions of the Guardians, what did you think of all of that? I'll start with you, Mason. So not Guardians, the Shepherds. I mean,
yeah.
Shepherds, my bad.
Yeah, the Shepherds were really cool, and I like the character design of the Shepherds. That they don't look, it doesn't look like a human actor in makeup. It looks, they look very alien. I like that. I like the character design. One thing that bothers me is that whether it's in JJ Trek or any series, really, anything that's happened in the last 15 years or so, you've got the Enterprise, which is a badass ship. I mean, it's big and bad, and it's the Enterprise. It's supposed to be more advanced than pretty much anything out there. And then it keeps running into like in Nemesis, like in the second Into Darkness, like when Admiral Peter Weller, Admiral Marcus's ship shows up, and it's like, so it's like here's the Enterprise.
It's a warship.
Yeah, it's like so much bigger. It's like, why would the Federation make it? It's like the Enterprise is the flagship of the Federation. Anyway, I just so when this Shepherd ship shows up, and when they started calling it a ship, that's what bothered me. I was like, this thing is huge. I mean, compared to the Enterprise, this thing's big enough to be. This is a space station. I thought it was a space station.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Referring to it as a ship, and I'm like, it's too big to be a ship. It's like just impractical. But fine, it has to. I know you have to have big, intimidating, opposing ships, for a sense of tension and danger and all that. But it was. I mean, they got the job done. I mean, it was. They came off intimidating. So, and I really like the way Pike handles. Pike is very diplomatic and knows how to, talk to people or aliens, and without triggering an incident, and try to keep the situation calm. Let's talk about this. How can we both? Didn't mean any disrespect. How can we both kind of get our way here? Handled it like a captain. That's all I could think of.
No problem, Chief.
I want to say I have come to really like Ethan Peck as Spock.
Me too.
10 times better.
Gregory Peck's grandson. Did you know that?
Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, pretty cool. Tito, what do you think of all of that shenanigans with them on the away mission? Samuel Kirk touching the thing, Uhura having to maybe understand her job now, and the introductions of the Shepherds.
The Kirks just all need to keep their hands to themselves is what needs to go on here. I mean, as soon as Sam Kirk got on there, and I'm watching, I'm like, oh, he's gonna touch it, and he's gonna screw something up, isn't he? Like, I knew it. No, Peck, I love Peck Spock. I loved him since season 2 of Discovery. He did a really good job. I'm kind of in the same spot here with like Captain Mason. Is I kind of want the threat to be like this real tiny ship, like it's like like a smaller looking slender ship, and then and then Pike's like, oh, okay, so these guys are threatening us, got it. And then as he's sitting there talking to the race, and the race is being all threatening, Pike's a little arrogant, but he's still diplomatic. And then he turns around, and they're just like, no, they can wipe us out. Like there's no way we can beat this ship. But I really do like Pike's. He is honestly one of the perfect amalgamations of a lot of different captains that we've seen in the past, but in his own but but he's still he's a captain in his own way. You know, like he's still a little brazen as like Kirk. He's still very diplomatic like Picard. He's still very, stern and like very I don't want to say sincere. What's the word I'm looking for? But like Cisco, you know what I mean?
Charismatic.
And then it's
Charismatic.
Yeah, charismatic is another way to put it.
Earnest?
Maybe. I don't know. I'll think about it at 3 a.m. in the morning. I'll like wake up out of a sleep and I'm like, oh, that's the word I'm looking for. And then like but you can tell he also really cares about his crew and treats them like a family, like Janeway. So it's like you can see like and he's got an exploratory spirit of Archer, you know. So it's like you can see all of these captains kind of rolled into him of old Trek, and they're just like it's this perfect amalgamation of all that put together. And I just love like the diplomacy and the adventure and all these other things. I thought the ship was a bit goofy looking, like Mason said. It looked like it should have been a space station kind of. But I mean, that doesn't. I mean, not every race is going to build their ships the same as Starfleet. I mean, I am not a fan of the Connie class at all. I've never thought the Connie class was a great design for a ship, ever. Sorry. I thought there were way too many weak points. I thought it looked cumbersome and a little bit goofy. But in this show, they really make it look like especially with like the maneuvers and stuff like that, and they take that cumbersome ship and they really make it move, and they make it believable, in my opinion. So I really like it. But yeah, I think I touched on all the points on the planet. Just I felt like it felt like. I agree with Mason that a lot of the conversations on the planet did seem like they were just when they were trying to figure out how to communicate with it and blah blah blah. A lot of that just did feel like it was kind of filler, like in the episode, which I didn't hate, but I didn't exactly necessarily love, because we got to know a little bit more about Uhura, and that's what I complain about with modern Trek, is that we don't get to know the side characters at all. So, I mean, I can't complain about that. Otherwise, I'm a big hypocrite. But I mean, we already know that. So, I don't know. But that's really it. I don't know. The shepherds are they? Have they ever been referenced in Trek before? Not that I remember.
Not that I know of.
Yeah,
it would stand out as far as I'm concerned.
So one thing. Oh, go ahead.
So go on. No, go on.
The one thing that I never liked about TOS is that you would always come across these like superior beings, and then like they would be an episode one and done, and you never see them again. No, barely any mention of them. You have all these gods and stuff like that on different planets, and I get it. It's the 60s, and they're doing all this stuff, and I forgive that. But like we have this this race here that's super intelligent. Obviously, they have this ship that can take the Enterprise out, which is the flagship of the Federation, as Mason said. But yet we have no idea who they are, where they came from, and it doesn't feel like it fits in this universe where it's like, and this is probably what people want going back to the TOS era. But that's what bugged me about TOS, is that we've got this massive threat here that if they ever wanted to invade the Federation or, attack Federation ships, they're severely more technologically advanced. So what, is this the only ship in existence of theirs?
Well, space is a very big place.
I understand that. But
so all types of stuff. But I didn't mind that too much. In TNG, funnily enough, there were so many one and done alien races we came across. So I'm not too fussed about that. Before I pass it on to you, Mage, I'm going to read some comments here from Daniel Vance. He says, "I appreciate showing someone with an implant that isn't entertainingly made better by technology." Geordie, yeah, for sure. Excellent reimagining of the original motion picture Zero G suits. Yeah, fair enough. And the word you're seeking is resolute.
Yes, I think that, resolute is the word I was looking for.
Fair enough. May, so with the away mission beginning and then being tracked on that comet, Samuel Kirk being out of action because he's an idiot, and the introduction of the shepherds, what did you think?
Good scenes. I'm kind of perplexed. I'm trying to figure out where they're going to go with Sam Kirk. Why he's here, other than to just have someone with the name Kirk on the show already.
Yeah.
So I'm curious about that. Hopefully it will go somewhere. But no, what a dummy. Touching the thing, getting shocked.
Why did they do that in film? Like, you're never supposed to touch the fucking thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And they do.
No, but
and
you
they
know
always...
that there, even in the 22nd century, there's going to be idiots that still have to touch it. I mean,
It's human
Yeah.
nature to an
yeah, I mean,
extent.
you know, if we're a part of a 4-person away team, you know, one of us are touching something that's going to like blow us across the room. I mean, it'd
Yeah.
probably be me.
Sorry, mate. Before I let you continue, by the way, regarding that race, but I want to mention this before I forget. Remember, they've been following that comet for longer than we could possibly imagine. You know, it's part of their religion, so no wonder they're... I mean, they might have come from the fucking Delta Quadrant for all we know, and they've been following it ever since. You know, updating their technology along the way. So they're a bit of an enigma at the moment, and maybe over the next few seasons they might be expanded upon. Sorry, Mage, I'll let you get back to it.
No, it's all good. But no, the shepherds, I think they're pretty cool. I agree with Mason. It's a really neat design on them. Their ship kind of makes me think of stuff from The Expanse, almost. That big Mormon ship, especially. So
Woman?
that kind of design would make sense for, like, you presume that maybe they have like a generation ship thing going with something that big and maybe carry everybody of their order. But no, the Uhura bits, I appreciate that they're doing it, but you know, the maybe do it in a more appropriate time and not in the middle of the life or death situation. Old Trek, you know, especially TNG, I mean, all of them really, the golden era, they kind of compartmentalized moments that were personal character growth and interactions between, you know, conflict type things. They kept that separate from, you know, more of the traditional sci-fi stuff. But not that people don't talk about things in the middle of work, but maybe not in such a dire situation.
Fair enough. Anything more to say?
And I think that's about it for that segment.
Okay, I just want to also mention regarding Samuel Kirk that I totally forgot about his... I didn't even know about his existence, because when you have the Kelvin universe rebooting Star Trek, where the fuck was Samuel Kirk on that? I mean, was he there? He was, you know, he wasn't heard of, was he? He's supposed to be the older brother of Jim. So where the fuck was he there? He wasn't. And so there's some continuity errors, in my opinion, because he should have been in that universe and he isn't. You know what I mean? The timeline changed once fucking that Romulan came back in time. Other than that, it would have followed the same fucking procedure. So yeah, shit like that really pisses me off. You know what I mean? It really does. You know, so go on. Yeah.
Sam Kirk was in TOS.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. He should have been in the Kelvin as well, but he wasn't.
Oh, I misunderstood what you were saying. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
So stuff like that really does piss me off.
He was in a deleted scene in the first JJ movie where Kirk, where Jim as a kid, 12-year-old Jim Kirk has stolen the Corvette or what is his stepdad's car, and he's driving by, and Sam had like run away from home and was walking down the side of the road, and Jim passes him, and he's like, "Hey, Sam."
I was saying, I
scene
isn't
got deleted.
that kid is in that movie though. Like he passes somebody on the road and he's screaming, "Yeah!"
No, he passes a robot cop.
No, there's a kid that he drives by and he screams at on his.
That was Sam.
But they don't say it's like Sam or anything like that. So
well, there's another
direct comment.
I think there was so that made the cut. Then there was another scene with Sam that was deleted.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking, is because they don't indicate that that's Sam at all.
Yeah, where the fuck was he? Why wasn't he with his mum or dad? I mean, like, what the fuck? Before all that shenanigans happened, before Hemsworth died. Anyways,
Quit
anyway,
poking
let's
plot holes,
just.
Am.
I can't help myself. I'm sorry. All right. Uhura tries to figure out the construct, and she gets a pep talk from Spock. The first one wasn't too great, but the second one, which I don't think he intended to be a pep talk, ended up being a lot better. And then she starts humming, and it seems to be having an effect. And she figured out the construct responds to music. Different tones represent letters or numbers or some shit like that. And with Spock and Uhura humming at different pitches, they managed to open the construct. There's nothing really inside, but it does something nevertheless. Spock assumes, I say my bloody spell check here, assumes the comet is now speaking to them, and Uhura does a hum to remove the comet's shield, and they're able to transport out. Now, the shepherds are really pissed because just those people being there is blasphemous. And then we have what Cheeto likes to be known as pew pews, and we have a nice little space battle. And even with all of this going on, the comet is still scheduled to hit that planet in 1 hour. Now, Spock suggests that they instead of trying to make the comet change course, they convince the comet to change course, and then Ortega uses her skills to fly the Enterprise towards the comet. Pike pretends the ship is damaged and begs the shepherds for help. This is like a sort of distraction because if the shepherds try to destroy Enterprise, they'll destroy the fucking comet at the same time, and so they are more likely to help them instead. And then Spock jumps into a shuttlecraft, and he's able to remove a chunk of frozen ice from the comet, stopping it from colliding into the planet. The frozen chunk flies into the planet's atmosphere and changes the ecosystem of the planet, making it more fertile for growing fauna and creating life itself. So, this is how they stop the comet from destroying the planet by basically causing a distraction towards the shepherds and getting Spock to do a little mission on his own. We also saw Ortega using her piloting skills. She even had her own little plans set up as well. So, what did you guys think of all of that? I'll start with you, Mage, as well as the musical tones as well. Don't forget that as well. Yeah.
I liked all of that stuff. One thing that I meant to say earlier and I didn't, I liked how when the shepherds were talking and bringing their exposition, they talked about, foreknowledge, and, that sort of idea ties in directly with Pike's arc right now. So I think that that was a good way of weaving it into the actual plot of this episode.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. We
But
kind of get to that a little bit at the end when Una talks to Pike. I'll bring that up later on.
so I was Ortegas is kind of funny. For a bit, I was on the fence with her, but she's starting to grow on me. More we got into this episode, the action scenes. I wrote pew pews in my notes. You can tell I've been here a while now. Just good stuff. The sneaking out on the shuttlecraft and that whole mission through the debris of the comet. It felt a lot like the Star Wars Empire Strikes Back asteroid scene. Not that I'm complaining, but it was reminiscent of that. But no, really good scenes. Just, but the had the shields effect. I kind of liked that on during the action scene with the Enterprise. But have shields always worked like that? I thought they acted like as a bubble that went outside around an area of the ship.
It just depends on, I think they did that for convenience back in the early like CGI special effects days. I mean, because really you have your warp bubble and then you have your shields. So, I mean, yeah, you're right. Like, because I mean, when the Enterprise D would get shot, sometimes you would see it more like a bubble. But I mean, like with the advancement of technology and everything, it does seem like shields would be more like closer to the shield, or not the shields, but the hull. It makes more sense for tactical maneuvers because, you know, if you can outmaneuver a blast like she was doing, if you can outmaneuver a blast, then you don't have to worry about it, you know. But if you have this big ass bubble with shields around it, you're a bigger target to hit, and then your shields will go, you know, go down. If you can outmaneuver those weapons fire, your shields will go down much slower. So it's, you know, I mean, yeah, you're right. It should be a bubble, probably for continuity's sake, but for practicality's sake, it really would just be something that's kind of more like tightly niched around the hull.
That reminded me of the ablative armor of like later seasons Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
I just remember Star Trek 2, where they would have shields, but the fucking torpedoes will still be going through the fucking ship like it did have shields, and it was really weird. But all right, Cheeto, what did you think of all of those scenes with them doing the distraction and the humming and the finding out music is the answer? You know, it soothes the savage beast, so to speak. What did you think of all that bollocks?
I mean, I just felt I just love the season 4 of Discovery recap in one episode of Strange New Worlds, like learning how to communicate with all this. I mean, you know, learn how to communicate with the whole thing, and it felt like it was like literally like the condensing season 4 of Discovery into one episode. But not saying I didn't like Discovery season 4. I really did enjoy it. There were some issues, but I did really enjoy it. But this episode really did that. I'm not a linguist, so I don't know, but I always feel like sometimes it's like they figure these things out too easily. Like, how did she figure out in just those moments how to drop the shields? Like there's no trial and error there. Like, it's not like she like hummed something with Spock and then like a toilet came out of the ground, you know, or something like, you know, like how did she know that humming would get the shields down when, you know, like when they didn't figure out how to actually speak whatever sing language that it is. So that was one of the kind of the things that I was kind of like, okay, I'm being okay with this just because this has been a good episode so far. But this is one of the moments where I was like, it took me out of the episode, and I'm like, now wait a minute, how does that how they get that the first try? Like, and I mean, it's not even like a language; it's actually a mode of communication through music, but it's not actually a language. So yeah, that part kind of was like, okay. The pew pews are great. I love the pew pews.
Very impressive special effects.
And that's yeah. I'm very on board for that. I still felt like the Enterprise was a little bit more maneuverable than it should be, and I'm not comparing it to like TOS
doing the loops in space.
Yeah, it was that. That's now I get it. There's no resistance in space. I get it. So the size and the design of the ship really wouldn't have that much of an issue with, or that much of an issue with maneuvering. But still, it's just like that ship looks like it's friggin' moving. Like that's a Millennium Falcon right there. So I don't. But that was still fine. And then. You got up through the part where they the distraction. I was very confused on the distraction. I'm like, what are we doing here? And even when Spock was kind of going down and using the resonance of the shield to convince the comet to move, I still was kind of like, what are we doing here?
Well, he cut off a piece of the comet, which kind of made it end up going away from the planet. I mean, but the only part which went into the planet was the ice, which turned into water, which changed the atmosphere of the planet. So there might have actually been species on that planet that survived the way it does because it's a desert planet, but they're dead now because because now the planet has become like a more like it's changed into a more foresty, greenery type planet now because it's because of that comet.
Yeah, and I honestly felt like the whole Pike foretelling part, I felt like that was a little bit more heavy-handed. I'm like, okay, so now we're speaking to Pike again, which is kind of Zam, what you were saying you didn't want, which I agree. I don't want like every episode there to be some learning moment for Pike about his, being able to see his future. I understand it coming up every now and then, like with the kids part, like him looking up the
Yeah,
kids.
we'll get to that. We'll
Okay,
get to that.
but the
Yeah.
whole speaking and foretelling and everything, that was a bit heavy handed for me. I was like, did we really need that? I'm okay with the race being like, we foretell, like, we believe that this comet can foretell, blah blah blah. But like, for it to be a learning lesson again for Pike in this episode, it's like, okay, he either needs to make peace with this thing or just, I don't know.
All
So
right.
go ahead.
You're jumping ahead a little bit. Before I pass on to you, Mason, let's read some comments from Daniel Vance. He says that Sam was the reason Jim joined Starfleet in TOS. He admired him for the things he did. Okay. Using music to communicate was very I'm glad you mentioned that, because
words.
I was thinking that at the time. I forgot to, but they've done that close encounter shit. They did the close encounter shit in Discovery, when it came to the alien race as well.
Yeah, but they used lights, I think. Lights and
they used 4 lights, I think.
pheromones.
Uhura singing to the control unit was very reminiscent, and in the same key of the song you sung as a distraction in Final Frontier during the fan dance. Yeah, everyone loves that Uhura fan dance. Anyways,
wasn't even her singing in the movie.
Nevertheless, Mason, what did you think of all of what we've been speaking so far? That we find out that music is the way to communicate to this particular construct. And the funny thing is, once it opened up, there was nothing inside it. It wasn't some little fucking dude in there, none of that shit. We obviously have a space battle, and then we obviously have Spock doing what he's doing, diverting the comet away from hitting the planet. What did you think of all of that bollocks?
Well, Daniel Vance already said it for me with the close encounters thing. Communicating with an alien entity through music. Where have we, seen this before? It was kind of derivative, but okay. I mean, I didn't hate it. And then Ortegas with the evasive maneuvers and everything. We've already established in this episode that Uhura is a genius and knows 37 different languages. And then Pike is saying to Ortegas, he's like, do you remember telling me that you're the best pilot in Starfleet or whatever? Or you're the best pilot to ever come out of the academy? Is like, is every person on the Enterprise like the best?
Every show, every Star Trek show seems to have somebody who's the best pilot in the fucking universe. You know what I mean? So if it's not Sue Lewis, it's Tom Paris. You know what I mean? So like, fucking hell.
Well, and I think the only way to explain that away is that as Mason said before, the Enterprise is the flagship, so maybe they kind of get the cream of the crop like that. But at the same time, I agree with you. It's like everybody who comes across as like the fucking greatest navigator, greatest linguist, greatest scientist of all Star Trek kind.
And I know they said the Shepard's ship was highly advanced and had far superior weaponry and
I know where you're going with this,
right? But god damn, just can they really have that many fucking torpedoes that they're just like firing them off like bang 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 like bullets? I mean, torpedoes are, a ship can't carry that awful many torpedoes. Not a Starfleet vessel anyway. I mean, you have what, maybe 10 on board before. I don't know. I'm guessing.
Voyager had 20. I think 37. I think was what their complement was. But I mean, still, but that's a much smaller ship. So
yeah.
I don't think that I don't think all those were torpedoes. I think some of them were just like
energy.
Like energy plasma bursts or something.
Well, they call them torpedoes though.
Did they? Okay, then I must have
one of the bridge officers.
But they get one shot on its starboard bow and boom, they disabled it for 5 minutes whilst they regroup.
And that's what I thought you were going to get into, Mason. I forgot to mention that. Like, yeah, they shoot phasers once at it and they disable the ship for like not disable it, but like they make them withdraw. And I'm like,
yeah,
they can't take these guys out. Like they basically peeled through their shields and hit the ship. I'm like,
yeah,
they didn't even use a torpedo. It was just the phasers.
Yeah. That kind of didn't make sense, and but you know, and the number of hits that Enterprise is taking from these torpedoes or whatever weapon that you know the Shepards are firing off. It's like, oh, we're at 40%, Captain. Oh, we're the shield's at 25%, and then it just keeps getting hit. Bam, 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 bam. I'm like, shouldn't the ship be destroyed by now? You know, it's just a little excessive there with the weaponry. But anyway, I mean, fun, thrilling scene, and I liked the. Are we at the part where
I'm gonna get to all of that now.
Okay.
I'm gonna get to that now. So Uhura tells the superior officers that the comet was never going to hit the planet. It was always going to do what Starfleet made it do, leaving us wondering what the fuck it was. That Jesus comet, because it might have been. You know what I mean? Spock tells Uhura that you helped us today and you're a badass, and you know you should stay with Starfleet and stuff like that.
Actually, Xander, you're farther along than I was gonna. I was gonna comment on something.
Okay, go for it.
It was still in.
Go for it.
I liked the resolution, how Pike, you know, manages to position the Enterprise like in between the Shepards and the Comet, so they can't fire for risk of hitting the Comet. And he's like, oh, and the same thing will happen if you blow us up, our the debris or whatever, antimatter, some shit, or dilithium or whatever, will destroy the Comet. So you can't attack us unless you want to destroy the Comet. So that was clever. I liked that. Anyway,
yeah.
Go on.
I like the fact that they fake the ship being fucked up by switching off the engines and shit like that. We'll just switch off the power. Yeah. Okay. So as I said earlier, Uhura tells the superior officers that the Comet was never going to hit the planet. It was always going to do what it did because she matched up the chunk of ice that was taken off by Spock to another chunk of ice for some reason, and somehow it was very confusing sometimes when they get into that sci-fi babble.
Some kind of like they after they got back to the ship, they were able to translate some of the harmonics or something like that, and that was a signal that they received hours prior to them even getting to the Comet or something like that. Hello, Commodore Boone.
Hello, Commodore Boone. I am Commodore 64. Anyways, they showed the ice obviously matching up to the ice that Spock took out from the Comet to make it change its trajectory, but somehow apparently that was always supposed to happen. And so, as I said earlier, is it Jesus Comet?
Jesus Comet.
You know, Jesus Comet. Spock tells Uhura that she's a badass and she should stay with Starfleet after her performance on the away mission, and obviously solving the riddle of the construct and figuring out that it was humming. Actually, it wasn't her who figured it out; it was Spock who figured it out. He heard her hum. So, anyways, we have Una, aka Number One. She basically correlates the predetermined nature of the comet to Pike's future, saying that you can change your future. But Pike's in a bit of a predicament here because he doesn't know if he wants to change his future because he wants to save those people's lives. But by doing so, it puts him in the chair. And then we see him going to a view screen and looking at those same people who he won't be saving for another 10 years or so. But at this particular moment, they're still kids. And so he's looking at them like kids and is obviously putting them in that dilemma. And that's how the episode concludes, with Pike once again observing his potential future. It must be an absolute fucking nightmare being able to living like that. Always, you can never forget it. It'll always be there. We all know that we're going to go one day. We just don't know how we're going to go. But for him to know how he's going to go, or in this particular case, what's going to be part of his future, it must kill him. You know what I mean? It must bug him beyond belief. No wonder he's always on it. I do understand why he it's a dilemma for him. So with the conclusion of this episode, the epilogue of this episode, finding out that we have Jesus Comet, and obviously Spock's pep talk again with Uhura by commending her for a job well done, and Una trying to basically tell Pike that you can change your future. I doubt that's going to happen. What did you guys think of this conclusion to this episode? I'll start with you, Mason.
I just gotta say, well, that was interesting. That the Comet had foresight and knew that it anticipated Spock's shuttle run, and that it was going to break off this exact piece of the comet, and but I wanted to see, instead of, I get it, it's a chunk of ice and entering a planet's atmosphere, it's going to burn, it's going to it's going to melt and turn into water vapor, but I want to see this just chunk of ice meteor. It's like it hits the surface, and anyway. I have a problem with I may be getting off a little bit, but swallowing that Uhura is this genius and knows 37 languages, and she says she has a passion for learning alien languages, and in the next 25 years, as Cheeto mentioned, so the next 25 years you never bothered to learn Klingon, an easily accessible language.
Final Frontier, remember Final Frontier? They're going through those fucking books.
Yeah,
No, that was Star Trek 6.
Sorry, I apologize. Star Trek 6, Undiscovered Country. They're going through those books. Yeah.
And the Klingon
books as well.
Just like Dudes vs. Onuk, Rain.
Dudes vs. Onuk.
Dudes vs. Onuk, Rain. Dudes vs. Onuk, Rain. Yeah. And then they, and Uhura is trying to speak Klingon. It's all fucked up. We are thy vessel, Urspa, whatever, or Urspa. Yeah. Anyway, I like the conclusion. It was interesting. It's like, we have a telepathic comet. Okay, cool.
See, that's kind of the kind of stuff from TOS era, though, that I can't get behind. Like a sentient telepathic comet. Like, what?
Theoretically, this is TOS era.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. I know
TOS.
It's pre-TOS, but I'm just saying. Like, I thought we were kind of like I understand why they did it in the '60s, but it's like, what? Why do we have a precog comet coming around here? Like, is Tom Cruise going to show up and arrest me for wanting to murder my boss? Like, what's going to happen?
Well, look, it's not 100% sure if that's the case, but it's leaving it a little bit ambiguous. So that's what's also interesting about it. Is it? Is it Jesus Comet? Is it not? You know what I mean? So, anyways, Major Rage, what do you think of that conclusion?
The conclusion for me kind of went off. I feel like the episode went off the rails at the very end. At least started slipping. The shepherds letting them go seems like weird and iffy to me. Did they not detect Spock's shuttlecraft? Because
I agree
that if they had detected the shuttlecraft, they would have been pissed. Even though it's a technicality of not touching it, they affected it by raising the temperature and making those gases release. And just, I like character development, but I was hoping for it to be, this to be a more episodic oriented show. And now they seem to be doing this whole season long arc with Pike coming to grips with the foreknowledge of his fate of his condition. And I feel like they can use the time to do other stuff. If that makes any sense. Develop side characters or maybe do other things with Pike's character.
Mate, don't you think though that like today's episodic shows are always going to have that touch of serialization to it? In this particular case, it's Pike's destiny, so to speak. It's very hard to get away from all of that. Even Lower Decks had it as well, by the way.
This is very true.
Little, but yeah. I don't mind the fact that they have that overarching thing with the overarching kind of serialized story with Pike. But as I said, they don't need to hand fist it to us every single week.
Right. A couple of key episodes of the season touching on it or developing it would be good.
Yeah.
But But no, that is kind of, it's a reality of modern television, is you're going to have that sort of stuff in there. You're absolutely right, Sam.
It
I
kind of
think
feels like the first season of The Flash, because it's like the first season of The Flash like had a lot of standalone episodes, but there was also that looming threat of the Reverse
Rose
Flash, or
Flash.
yeah, like throughout that whole thing. So I mean, and it wasn't every episode though. Like there were at every couple episodes there would be a bigger reveal of, you know, the Reverse Flash starting to become more and more prominent, and his plans starting to come together. But it's like that's what I want here. I don't want like every episode there to be some kind of subplot based on Pike's, you know, precog PTSD. I guess, is that what we can call it?
Yeah. No, I agree with you there.
I think
And
what we need to be just a little bit fair, because it might be adding a bit now, but hopefully by the end of the season, it is not as slamming into us with the fact that he's going to, you know, he's like this particular part of him is going to be in every episode. Let's just hope it's not the case. But in the first 2 episodes, obviously it has been.
now
I'm
the
only two
part of
episodes in.
I still think I know Josh shot that theory down. Like he was like, well, you can't do that, but I still feel like they're building to a retcon of what happens of Pike ending up in the chair, like some. And I know this is supposed to be like Prime Universe canon, but I feel like they're trying to figure out a way for Pike not to end up in the chair.
Yeah, but here's the thing. It's like they've got 9 or 10 years.
Yeah.
Do we really think that Strange New Worlds is going to last that long?
Well, no.
So that's why I feel like they could come to the end of the series and still, I mean, if they
I
want to
think we'll
put
have
him in
time
the chair,
jumps.
huh?
I think we'll have time jumps between seasons.
I hope
Yeah.
not. Like, I hope every season is like a year, you know, like.
Yeah,
Because
but anyway, sorry, Major. I do apologize.
It's all good.
We'll
I
have
was
to-
just going to say that I liked the ambiguity. I'm really like that of the conclusion where they left it up in the air about the nature of the comet, of whether it was sentient or not, and all that stuff. They might have leaned the one way, but at least it was not explicitly stated.
I thought those aliens were the same as the species on that planet. They look very similar. The shepherds. I'm not sure if you guys thought the same thing.
I got that inkling too. They didn't look a lot alike, but there were some key character, like their skin color was like a bluish hue to it, like a bluish tint to it.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell with the view, but like they had something like going on up here, kind of like they did. But I
Well,
don't
the shepherd we saw on screen had a beard.
did he? Okay.
Yeah, he did.
Mhm.
I
Watching
keep
the
in mind I
episode
watched
twice.
it on my phone at work, so
I watched it twice, and yeah, it was definitely a beard, alien beard, but a beard nevertheless. So, okay, so I'll pass it on to you guys. I'll pass it on to you next year. The conclusion.
I've already kind of said my piece about it. It's like I thought it was okay him looking up the names of the kids that he's going to save in the future. That's fine. But as I said, it seemed like any character progression for Pike in this episode was based on his precog PTSD. So I mean, I hope we get more out of Pike than that. I understand in the first episode him kind of being rocked by it now, having to kind of wrestle with those issues before coming back to the Enterprise. But if it's almost like a depressed like person. It's like if they're negative and they're talking about the same thing all the time, like you just don't want to deal with them, after a while. So unless they get help. And as I said, I want him to kind of come to peace with this and do what he's going to do.
He's confining with his first officer, because he's not like throwing this shit onto his entire crew, is he? He's talking to like the one person he thinks he can talk to. Everyone needs a friend, They're confined in. So
I just hope every week doesn't have like this subplot speaking directly to Pike about his precog PTSD. But yeah, I thought this episode was really good. A very good bottle episode, like this show is should be. I do agree that the Shepard's basically saying we now leave as friends, and it's like I feel like there should have been more of a warning there. Like they should have been like, now we leave, but do not trespass on our sacred ground again, or something like that, because stuff happened, like pew pews happened, that. And basically, they said that if you guys do anything on the thing, it is a declaration of war, and it's like, wow, okay, that war resolved really quickly because they beamed the people off the planet or off the comet, and so yeah,
I think you're making them too black and white. Personally, like these people, just yeah, like I said earlier, it's too black and white the way you're describing things, and I like the fact that once this planet, had its ecosystem change and it was going to be for the better. Like they were like, they were bragging about it. Yeah, look how fucking cool we are. We told you this comet's the bollocks. You know what I mean? So the dog's bollocks even.
Art imitates life.
Yeah, so yeah, nevertheless, Mason, I'll pass it on to you now. What do you think of that conclusion?
I already commented on the conclusion.
Yeah?
I think I was
sorry. I do apologize. Okay. I do apologize. Let's just quickly get to some of the... go on.
Okay.
No, go on.
Oh, Zan or Cheeto, you were saying earlier, like if the four of us went on an away mission, one of us would touch something and get blown across the room, and it'd probably be you. And then I'd have to take care of you while Zam gives Mage a pep talk about how he's going to get us out of it.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we're going to be calling Daniel Vance. Daniel Vance, help us get us off this comet. He's like, Daniel Vance to sing to it.
No, Daniel Vance, we don't
read it so well.
You'll be like sending us messages.
Yeah,
that's how I want it.
I'd totally be the one who needed the talk.
The logic used to prove the comet had precognition is flawed. Spock could have simply followed a plan that his unconscious telepathic mind picked up on and carried out. Regarding the telepathic mind of Vulcans, like how telepathic are they? Are they only telepathic when they touch you, or can they fucking...
Depends on what the episode needs them to be able to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say it's more of a latent telepathy. So it's like, I agree with me. Just more like whatever the episode calls for.
If fate protects the fool's little children, shipment Enterprise, William T. Riker. Oh, fair enough. But yeah, once again, another decent episode, regardless of us maybe bitching about it here and there. I still fucking enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, nitpicky, but I still, you can't help it. We're in this sort of game now where everyone's a fucking film critic to a degree. Thoroughly enjoyed it though. I just like the fact it just harkened back to previous episodes. It reminded me of TNG at times. Like, they're trying to resolve one issue and then another problem falls on their lap, and they have to deal with that as well. And then and everything gets tied up by the end, and I just really fucking love that, And I'm giving this episode a solid 8 out of 10 because not only did we get the sort of formula that we've all been gagging for, we got some character development, not just from Uhura, people like Ortegas as well, and even a bit of Spock to a degree. Like Spock, I found Spock absolutely hilarious in this episode. I really did. He made me laugh so fucking much, and obviously we got to see more of Pike doing his thing and his sort of style of doing his thing as well. There were times where Rebecca Romijn looked like Majel Barrett. I'm not sure if you got that vibe. I was like, wow.
Did.
Like certain angles, it was amazing.
And it's really great casting.
Really good to see that Professor X and Mystique, brother and sister, are part of the Star Trek family as well, which is excellent. So yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this episode.
I give it. Bolt.
Oh yes, yeah. Well, he's on X-Men. But yes, nevertheless, yeah. All right, fair enough. I'm sure there'll be other Marvel characters we can think of if we put our minds to it. But
who did 8 out of 10.
Huh?
Who did you say?
Black Bolt. He was in the Inhumans miniseries. Anson Mount, Captain Pike. He was in the Inhumans miniseries as Black Bolt.
Okay.
Yeah,
I didn't watch that.
So, Cheetah, what are you going to give this? I gave it 8 out of 10.
I'll give it an 8. Solid 8 out of 10.
Mage?
I'd give it an 8.5. I know I was a bit nitpicky on it, but I enjoyed it. I'm just really glad to see episodic Trek again.
And Mason?
Entertainment value. It was, it was thrilling in parts. It was, we had some great character moments, some really good pipe moments, some. I almost give it an 8, but I'm going to dock it a little bit and give it a 7.5 because the Uhura character development was a little heavy-handed at times and felt forced, and so 7.5.
Sarek was talking to Michael from it's like Sarek was using the fucking force.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's what the episode demanded. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, well, regardless of all our points, is pretty much positive all the way around, with little nitpicks here and there. But those nitpicks definitely don't overshadow what we thought was a very good episode of Star Trek, and I could not wait for next week. Now, bring it on. So, regarding what's coming up, Cheeto, you want to let us know on anything?
tonight I will be doing my Young Justice review of season 4, episode 22, I believe is what we're on. Also tomorrow we have a fan requested fan film reaction coming out, Chaos in Cloud City. That'll be coming out tomorrow. Over the weekend, I don't think we have really anything per se coming out, but you never know. Some of us might get the bug crawled up our butts and we might sit down and maybe do a live broadcast. Who knows? We'll see what happens. We're pretty flexible. Also have Zam has recorded some more food reviews, so we got some of those coming out. He also did a scene reaction. I gotta get slated on the schedule. And yeah, right now we're kind of light on reviews just because there's not a lot. I mean, Marvel's kind of done for until I think Obi-Wan comes out at the end of the month. So
No, that's Star Wars. Marvel will be
well, I meant Disney. Sorry, Disney Plus.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
Wednesdays.
Exactly.
But yeah, I think that's really
I might have at some point. I think Young Rock season 2 has almost finished, and so you'll see a review of season 2 from me very shortly. I'm going to look for that as soon as we finish recording here as well. So keep an eye out for that. And by the way, please, please, please watch our review or our reaction to Chaos and Cloud City. I think you're going to like it. I think you are. I go full on heel mode. That's all I'm going to say.
Don't spoil anything.
No, fair enough. I do apologize. But yeah, I'm looking forward to people's comments on that. Very much so. All right. So and what about Final Fantasy, guys? Anything on that on the horizon?
No, we've been talking about getting some projects lined up. So for Final Fantasy, we've been talking about doing a draft, doing some villain plot things, just the normal nerd stuff, but we'll be releasing some more of that stuff here in the near future. And I don't know, me and Mage probably could get together and do some Dragon Ball. We haven't done that in a couple weeks. So
I've got a couple of ideas in my notes. I was hoping for maybe some new news about upcoming movie, but I've got some theories kicking around in the old brain pan.
Nice. So yeah,
Fantastic.
there's always stuff we're brewing. We're nerds. We like a lot of nerdy things.
Fantastic.
Captain Mason, where can we find you?
Oh, I'm sorry. What?
Where can we find you? Anything you want to plug or?
Just if you haven't watched the Avalon Universe films, go check that out. The channel is Avalon Universe. Go to videos, and if you're starting from the beginning, if you haven't seen any of Avalon Universe, go to videos, scroll all the way to the bottom, watch the films in this order: Ghost Ship parts 1 and 2, Avalon
Good
Lost.
film.
Yeah, Ghost Ship, Avalon Lost, Demons, Air and Darkness, Cosmic Stream, Agent of New Worlds.
And Daniel Vance just threw it in the comments. So there you go. You guys just click the link and head on over.
Some of the best Star Trek fan filmmakers out there on YouTube, I would like to add. They bring the quality where other people brings. I can't think of a rhyming word right now that is negative, but nevertheless, they bring the quality, that's for sure. So keep an eye out for Avalon Universe. They are very good at what they do. And I'm very happy to have Tyler with us, who's one of the main cogs of that wheel. So thank you very much for joining us, Tyler. Thank you very much for joining us, Mage. And thank you very much, Cheetah, for joining us. And thank you out there for joining us here on NerdTube. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe. to NerdTube. We're the greatest YouTube channel you never heard of. Take care. Bye bye. And may the force be with you.
Ah.